Ever feel like people just don't get you? Or maybe you're the one struggling to get your point across. Well, the truth is, most people are terrible at communication, and it's hurting their careers, their relationships, their wealth, and even their confidence. Why? There are 3 simple reasons. They don't read and write enough, they use slang and swear, and the worst of all, they never ever practice. If you want to stand out, if you want to sound smarter, if you want to turn your articulation into compensation, actually be heard, you need to fix these things right now. Let's dive in. Talking about communication, Warren Buffett said this: public speaking is an asset that will last you 50 or 60 years, but it also is a liability. If you don't like public speaking, you need to work on your communication, otherwise it will cost you. King Solomon, the wisest, wealthiest king that ever existed, he said this: death and life are in the power of the tongue. They that love it shall eat their fruit thereof. That's in Proverbs 18. Death and life, with our tongue, we have the power to lift people up or to pull people down. Have you ever reflected that in world history, everyone that has made a significant impact, both for good and bad, were good at communicating? They were good at conveying their message in such a way that moved the masses, both for good and for evil. John, in his gospel, put it this way: in the beginning was the Word. Even God started with his word and spoke everything into existence. Our tongue, our communication, our articulation can be a very powerful tool, so we must learn to use it wisely. Let's have a look at some of the contrasts between bad communicators and good communicators. Have you ever noticed that poor communicators have few words, few ways of saying things, and they are not very clear when it comes to their communication? You know that poor communicators, it's because they don't read a lot and they don't write a lot. So point number 1 is read. You need to read more and you need to write more. So I'm going to explain what this means. The more you read, the better your words will be. The more words you have to communicate the same message, the more phrases you have to transmit the same content. And when you write, it brings clarity to your thoughts. It puts them in some sort of order. Have you ever noticed that you can speak without thinking? Have you ever said a word or a phrase, and as you're saying it, it's coming out of your mouth and you're trying to grab it as the words leave your mouth because you realize that you hear yourself saying it and you realize those words aren't the best way to communicate that thing. But have you also noticed that the opposite is true? Have you ever noticed that you cannot think without using words? When you write, it brings clarity to your thoughts. And when you write your thoughts down and take time, you have to stop and put them in order so you can make sense on a page. Often when your thoughts are spiraling out of control, it helps to stop, take time and write down your thoughts. It helps them to stop spiraling and it simplifies the problem. It also reduces the anxiety and the stress. And often when you read back what you have written, you hear what it sounds like. You hear the message that you're communicating. And this allows you to adjust and to get clearer. And if you're super confident, you can read it to others and ask them for feedback. And that'll really help you get better at communication. If you don't read much and if you don't write much, can I challenge you? You need to do it more. I submit to you that reading the Bible, reading God's Word, will greatly grow your life. Here's a suggestion. Read 1 proverb a day. There are 31 proverbs. So whatever the date is today, you just read that 1 chapter. It'll take you 5, maybe 10 minutes if you're a slow reader. And if you miss a day or two, it doesn't matter. Just remember, whatever today's date is, and read that 1 chapter. If you don't understand the words, get a dictionary, get a Strong's Concordance, and look up the original meaning of the words. Then I want you to spend 5 and 10 minutes writing your thoughts down. Here's a suggestion and answer some of these simple questions. What is this passage saying to the people that it was intended for? What is this passage saying to me? How can I do something different tomorrow with what I've read today? This will get you started. By doing this every day, you will get better at communicating. You will learn new words and you will learn new phrases, and your thoughts will become more ordered. When you open up your mouth to speak, it'll be more thoughtful and clearer and more systematic. Have you ever noticed when someone swears, you're not entirely sure what they are communicating? Have you ever noticed that without context, without tone, without the whole picture, you're not entirely sure whether they're happy, they're sad, they're confused, they're angry, and the list goes on. By swearing, you may have offended some people, you may have put some people offside or onside. When you swear or use slang or use industry jargon, people have to stop and think about what you're trying to say. They have to try and figure out. So point number two is don't swear. Swear. Don't use slang. And don't use jargon. So, when you swear, you're putting off sides. When you're using slang, people are confused. When you're using industry jargon, people don't know what you mean. If you're trying to communicate a message, people have to stop and think, what does that word mean? How does that word fit into the context of this message? You've lost them. People can't do two things at once. They have to stop and think about what you're saying. They have to figure it out. They have to tune out of what you're trying to communicate and figure it out, and then tune back in, and you may have missed seconds, if not minutes, of your message. So when you use a word that you think people might not understand, you need to be clear and define it early, so people don't have to think. They don't make assumptions, and they know clearly what you're trying to communicate. Have you ever noticed that when people don't prepare, they don't practice, they are hard to listen to? They stumble over their words, and their thoughts don't progress and seem to jump from one thought to the next with little or no connection. You need to spend 4 times as much in preparation and need to practice than you do performance. So point number 3 is you need to prepare and you need to practice. Here we go. Point number 3, prepare and practice. When it comes to sport, athletes spend lots of time in preparation and practicing. They work in the gym, they work with coaches, and they reflect on how their performance went, and they refine and work on getting it better. We must do the same with communication. Why do we think because we use words all day, that we can't get better at communication? We need to spend time in preparation. You need to spend time practicing the art form of communication. You must stop and reflect and see how you can get better. You need to see how you can grow. You need to study and listen. And you need to listen to great communicators and learn lessons from them. When it comes to communication, you need to start when you're not good, and eventually you'll get good. With communication, the only way you get good is while you're doing it. You can't practice on your own. You need to start by talking to people and attempt to communicate a message. You'll get feedback from your audience, even if it's only one. They'll let you know, is the content engaging? Are they holding their attention for the whole time? Do they understand? And do they want to hear more? So remember these 3 things. Number 1, you need to read more and write more. Number 2, don't swear and don't use slang and industry jargon. And number 3, you need to practice and prepare more. So I hope this video helps you. I can't wait to see you on the next one.